Hey. Oh gosh, I could go back, Julie. It's just nice to see you all. It kind of, you're calming me down now, just seeing all your names here. 10:57 p.m. in Tennessee. Wow. Yeah, I did read your message, Electro, while I was just about to come on air. I need to look into this more because I never really paid much attention to Jodie Sue, to be honest, but I think I need to do. Hi, Brenda. So what we're going to talk about tonight, you've probably already got a kind of idea on what we're going to be talking about, the well situation. Okay, but first of all, everybody, I need to introduce you to some special guest. A special guest. Well, he's not a guest because he's not coming on, but this is my new friend. You're gonna have to excuse my tummy rumbling. This is Turbo. He's my tortoise. Oh, don't say there's no sound now. I can't cope. Donna, is there really no sound? I hope you can hear me. Please tell me you can hear me. Oh my God. I don't think I could cope with any more microphone issues at this time in the morning. So yes, this is Turbo. Turbo is 3 years of age and he does have a foreskin for a neck, yes, but he is very loving, and if you call his name, he will actually turn round and face you, and if he's walking one way and you call his name, you have to call him Bob though, because that's what they called him at the other place. He will walk to you. So that's quite nice. He's a good boy. Right, let me... So for anybody who didn't know, we've got a new subscriber to the channel, which is always good. We always like our new subscribers. It's Ryan Upchurch. Woohoo! Ryan Upchurch is a new subscriber to the channel. He obviously liked what he heard. Either that or he feels sorry for us over here and thought he'd just give us a subscriber. Yeah, Turbo Bob. Although, you know, I really like pickle, and I was actually thinking I quite like pickle. So I'm not really sure what to do. Yeah, so where should we start? Right, so if I don't see your comments, occasionally I do have to keep going into the photos, and when you're in the photos, you can't see the comments. So I just have to keep going across and having a look. Has anybody seen this photo of Don? I hadn't seen that photo of Don before, but I thought I would bring it all to you because I know that you really enjoy seeing photos of Don, just being sarcastic. Right, so where should we start? Let me have a little look at my little list. I'm trying to be this century, and I'm actually doing it without paper today. Okay, so I saw this and something stood out to me a little bit. I think he's in the Subaru actually. Look, I think it's the Subaru. It's more of a car. Right, so I saw this message, guys, and there was just something about it that just didn't sit right with me. And it's from True Mulaney. So this is H's or Hunter's sister. So somebody was asking her, do you think, you can't see the name of the person, but it was at the top. And it said, do you think something bad happened to Summer at the hands of family members, or do you believe the story that she simply walked out the back door? True says, if I'm being honest, well, actually, I have a gut feeling something bad happened at the hands of her family members. I just like the way they're using the words family members. It's almost like a way of distracting from, making her brother kind of distracted from the whole, he had anything to do with it. I mean, who knows whether he did or he didn't. He's still classed as a suspect, I guess. But it's like, I think something happened at the hands of her family members. Anyway. So I made a video the other day, and it was actually, let me get it up here. It was more to do with why Don didn't show up for work, and it's a snippet of Cher's interview with him. It's only like a minute long, the whole thing. But it was to do with what he was saying and how he was stumbling over his words. But listen to what he actually says here about something happening 2 days before Summer went missing.
So it's not possible that she went missing on the 13th or 14th.
No, because we've showed law enforcement our phones. We've showed law enforcement our phones. They know the exact date. I was dealing with stuff prior to that pretty bad, and then like I say, I fired Mr. D, and then the next day my daughter comes up missing.
Yeah.
And then 2 days. I mean, I don't know. That seems pretty odd in itself.
He was supposed to go work Sunday. He didn't show up. Monday I go in and he's sitting on a tub, like head down and just distraught. And I'm like, this ain't good.
No, because we've showed law enforcement our phones. We've showed law enforcement our phones. They know the exact date. I was dealing with stuff prior to that pretty bad, and then like I say, I fired Mr. D, and then the next day my daughter comes up missing.
Yeah.
And then 2 days. I mean, I don't know. That seems pretty odd in itself.
So, Cher is there asking a question, which I think is a really good question, regarding whether or not Summer could have possibly have gone missing a couple of days before, which would bring into the fact that they'd all lied. But I thought it was a really good question. It's something that I've always considered, and I'm sure you've probably considered as well. But what I was interested in when I re-listened to it was not just how Don was stuttering over his words, but what he was saying when he talks about there was things going on, like a couple of days before Summer came up missing. So what was going on that weekend? Now, we've already seen the message where somebody had said that there was supposed to be a friend staying over to help them tidy up the house because CPS was coming on the Tuesday, was it? The Tuesday or the Wednesday? And they got sent home early, okay, from the house. Now, what was going on for something happened that weekend. I'm not saying that Summer particularly went missing that weekend, but something occurred that weekend. Now, when I was speaking to Grandis, we also had this message. And I said to her, "Can I ask you, babe?" And she said, "What's up?" I said, "The night before Summer went missing, was everything normal at home with Don? He was acting weird. Was he acting weird or like overly aggressive to Candace at all?" Like, I was trying to get a feel for it. And she said he got mad because she had a drink, but she put him in his place and I went home, which I guess she means to a camper, which kind of not really home. Like, well, maybe her home, but anyway. And I don't know why he's getting mad. It doesn't make sense to me because he drinks whiskey like nearly every night and takes meth, apparently. So why he would be getting mad for that reason doesn't really make sense. Why he would get mad at her when he does the same kind of things. But something seemed to have been going on in those couple of days before. And, you know, it's just made me think what was going on that weekend. So we've got the friend that was got sent home a couple of days before Summer went missing. We've got Grandma saying they were arguing the night before. How, to what extent? Who knows? We don't know that. Obviously, none of us were there. We're trying to piece it together bit by bit with the tiny little bits that we've got. Sorry if I look tired. But done in. Trying to do 2 jobs. Oh, be a full-time mum. Oh, it's hard. Anyway, so if I fall asleep on the computer in a minute and I'm like, and I open my eyes and then remember that you're all here, just carry on. Don't say anything. I'll just carry on like nothing happened. Anyway. So yeah. So the police came, the FBI, TBI, whoever it is that turned up, sheriff's office, I think it was, straight to the scene when Summer went missing. And they searched. But they came again, and this is what I've got written down here. So there was a heavy police presence in Beach Creek, and this was in February when they came again. So the authorities have returned months after scaling back efforts in the search for missing Rogersville 5-year-old Summer Wells. According to the TBI, Public Information Officer Leslie Earhart, the return is part of a planned search to take advantage of winter weather. Earhart emphasised that there are no new developments in the Summer Wells case and that the heavy police presence stems from new search efforts as the colder seasons brings less foliage in the area. I'm like, right, whatever. You're just trying to stop us from being concerned as to what any new evidence might be. Teams today will be focusing on overgrown areas. Okay, overgrown areas. You've just said you've just come to look at the areas that might not be overgrown, but you're going to look at the overgrown areas. Anyway, yeah. So several law enforcement agencies are assisting, and cadaver dogs are being utilized during this time, as they had been in the past. So they had the dogs out. Let me just see. We've got a new member to the channel. Oh, thank you, Mystic Rogue. Thank you so much for becoming a member. That's really kind. We've got America True Crime here as well. She's here. Let me have a look, because we'll be talking about her channel in a second. She's got a great crime channel that, you know, you need to all go across and check out, but we'll talk about that in a second. So they had the search. They were searching again. They came out again. They had multiple agencies, and they had all the dogs. You know, they were doing everything they could to try and find Summer, and it was a lot of people that came out. It wasn't just, you know, Hawkins County or just a handful of people searching. It was a big situation going on. And my questions relating to that are, if there are wells and septic tanks in that area, what is the chance of these cadaver dogs being able to sniff, whatever you want to call it, a deep enough level to be able to tell? Now, obviously, septic tanks, and especially septic tanks, are not going to smell good. as you can imagine, you know what's inside them. They're not going to smell good at all. And so the dog has to sniff through all that crap to be able to have any chance of being able to smell anything inside. So let's have a look. You can probably hear my cats meowing in the background. So experts said that cadaver dogs, well, 95%, are 95% accurate and can smell remains 15 feet underground, right? 15 feet, bear that in mind. "30 meters, and they can detect the scent of human remains under 30 meters of water. And that's just with a small shard of bone or one like drop of blood. So that's really good. And I know, guys, it's not what we want to think of. We don't want to imagine for 1 minute that summer could be anywhere of the sorts. But we've got to remember that this is coming up to a year. She didn't wander off. And unless somebody's taken her, one of the alternatives to that, and I think a lot of us probably would agree right now, I know I do, that she is no longer here, and this is a recovery mission now at this state of the game. I don't know what you all assume, but bearing in mind what I've just said, well, look at this. So these are some wells, okay? Now, when I think of a well, this is what I think of. It's not probably the type of well in Tennessee. This is in England, and this is a very old, tiny little well. It's probably not even a well. It looks like it's sat on a stone, but this is what wells used to look like years ago in this country, okay? But they don't look like that in all situations. They can look like this. They can be, this is classed as an open well, but it does have a type of grate over it to stop people falling in it. Like this, although I'm told that this looks more like a septic tank. Like this. But you would like to think that while they are doing all this searching, that they have been going through these wells, they have searched them. But to be honest with you, I don't think they have. And I'll show you why in a minute. But first of all, I am going to drop the link. So let's copy the link. Link is copied and put it in the chat. I'm sorry if I'm not looking at comments right now, guys. So we have a really great channel that no one has really noticed. And I think it's this person, this lady, I think it's a lady, yeah, that runs this channel. She's got a really good platform here. She does a lot of research, and some of the stuff she's uncovered is really good, because I covered the fact that there's probably wells and things a good few months ago now, but not actually managed to find where to look when it came to actually finding all the wells in Tennessee. And let me just plug my headphones in, because if I have somebody coming up, I am going to need them. So just give me a second, and then we have a guest. I'm using the old microphone, guys, because we had an issue at the beginning. Adds a bit of colour to my life. Right. Add stream. Hello. Hello, America True Crime.
Hey there, Emma. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're doing so good. I love all those pictures that you showed because there are so many different types of wells. And even in Tennessee and across the South, so many different kinds.
Yes, there is. And, you know, I've been at work. So when I was on my dinner break, I managed to try and find as many different wells before we got another emergency as I can, and quickly uploaded them to StreamYard. But welcome to the channel. I really like your research and everything that you've managed to uncover. And we're going to have a look at that in a second. So
Thank you
thank you
so
for
much.
that.
I love your channel and I love the work you've been doing and how much you've been supporting Summer and finding Summer. Because as you know, Summer just did not disappear. Summer is somewhere.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not what people want to hear. Like I was saying a minute ago, I don't think she's still with us. And I honestly think it's a recovery mission now. And, you know, it's horrible to think like that. And I hate having to come live and even question that she could be down a well. You know, it's horrible. But I think we have to be reasonable with it all now. And you know.
Well, we can look at this as rather than saying something happened, we're just crossing things off the list. We want to make
Yeah.
sure we've checked everything that is a land feature that perhaps Ellie doesn't even know about. And we're not being assumptive or arrogant or anything. They may not know of, say, a hidden well that was from 40 years ago that went out of use and no one who lives there now even knows it exists. So we
Well,
could look at it that way.
It's funny you should say that, because when I was looking at who owns these wells, because when you click on them, you can actually see who owns them. And when I was looking and then Googling the names, I was getting obituaries up for all of them. So unless you've got a family of, for instance, I don't know, name Smith, and you've got a family of Smiths and their generations are still living in that property, it's possible that a lot of people have you know, sold up to someone else, and they are just currently, you know, still in the names of the people that
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And a lot of things, whether it's wells or old abandoned septic tanks and systems, which can be quite large pipes that can hold, you know, things that we don't want it to hold. But yeah, I mean, the properties switch hands, older generations die off and new ones come on, a new water lines coming in from the city come into the property, and things are lost and forgotten. So I don't think it's a foolish errand to go about and locate the various land features.
Yeah, I agree. And so with that being said, I will go ahead and we'll have a little look at some of this. So one of the things I wanted to show you is talking about these wells. I've always wondered why people have a lot of sheds on their property. I'm thinking, do people really need 3 sheds? I know the Wells property has 3 sheds, and I could never understand why. And so I was Googling that, and it was showing things like this. And as you can see, a lot of them are falling apart. Now,
Yeah, that's very typical because you're gonna a lot of these places before they were subdivided more than once, they used to be farms, active working farms. And when you run a farm, you have all kinds of implements and tools and different things that you need to get the work done on the farm. So it's very common. And then instead of taking down the structure, honestly, a lot of farms and areas, they just leave them up there and they come down on their own. Sometimes they just deteriorate away.
Yes. And so what we're trying to say, guys, is a lot of these, you know, if you don't live in areas like this, you might not know that wells actually a lot of the time had houses around them to protect people, I suppose, to stop people falling in, or, you know, just to house them. And these are kind of what they would look like. Now, if you remember the structure from 110 Ben Hill Road, that looks very similar to, and I couldn't get a better picture than this. I will show you. Couldn't find it. So the picture here, can you see in the far right hand corner? Oh, wrong photo. Can you see the like shed that they have down here? This is a really old shed now. This used to be, well, it's hidden in the woods if you look at it on Google Earth. Whether that's the well, a well shed, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the one that has that walkout basement. And one
Yes.
of my theories is, and it's quite a similar setup as the walkout basement of the main house up there. But one of my theories is that they had at one point planned to have another, you know, a separate living area over there. And
Yeah.
it does have that walkout basement. Now, it doesn't seem to be that the well is in there. It could be, but it's
Yeah.
located somewhere plus or minus between where the original trailer was set up on that property and where that shed is that you're pointing to.
Yeah, so I'll bring up the photo. Let me have a look. I uploaded everything earlier. They come up so light on the screen you can't even see. Oh, right, here we go. Right, so if I enlarge this, I don't know if it just enlarges it on my screen. Right? Is that big on your screen or is that small?
It's in the middle of the screen and it's medium. I don't know if everyone can see that or not, but it gives you the idea. If you can see that line pointing between a tree and the well would be on the outside of that driveway.
Yeah, so you can see the trailer. Grandma's camper would be just above the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at my photos because I actually marked on where this might be easier for you to work it out. So there's the trailer. They call it the trailer. That's their house now. It's a bit of a different shape, but that's their house. Where you can see the red line and it says number 2, that would be where Grandma's camper is.
That's right. And keep in mind that these the paperwork was from around 93 to 94. So
Yeah.
that was before that trailer became dilapidated. And so they had that trailer up there and then they basically built around it or on it. And then the trailer went away. And so what's left there now is the house, but the trailer is no longer up there, but it's relatively in that same place where you see that square rectangle.
So yeah, so it changed shape, but it's the same place. And so the back door would be to the right and the front door would be the left. Is that right? And then there it says here a well where it says number 1 would be right where that old shed that we were just looking at a few seconds ago.
Yeah, it could be a more like in between, but
yes.
the challenge this is challenging because the drawing isn't exactly to scale, and you know it's not scientific or measured out or anything. It's a rough estimate, so there's no way to really know where a feature of the land is except for going out and doing the field work, actually locating it in person. But we're doing the best we can from a distance. and we're getting all our paperwork, and so it kind of acting like wayfinders for where Ellie or whoever's allowed up there may be able to look.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can with the situation we're in. Which is we're not there. So we're trying to work it out the best we can, and we've got quite a lot of information. So what with the stuff that you've managed to find, this is one of yours, so this is great. You know, this is documented where the well would be, which is somewhere very close. It's got to be quite close, I would have thought.
And one guess that I would have is that they would have already checked that out, you know. And the dogs, if it's, and I don't know how deep that well is because it is not documented. It's only documented on the septic system paperwork. So that well is not documented. What I'm even more concerned about, because I'm hoping that something like this would already be checked out. What I'm thinking more along the lines of what my highest interest is things that people don't know about. They didn't know to check. For instance, the abandoned well further down off of the hill on the front of the property.
And I mean, this is something I brought up. Okay, now this shows the wells right as close as you can get to their house. So I've documented their house there with the S. It's actually just in front of that where you can see the U-shaped white lines. That's actually where their house is, there off Ben Hill Road. And then where you've got the blue dots, they are the closest wells to their property. But as you will see, there is no blue dot on the Summer Wells, the Wells property at all. So if the TBI were looking at this, they would be like, well, we've looked at all the wells in the area. There isn't one situated at 110 Ben Hill Road. Well, no, there isn't. But it's actually documented on this paperwork by whoever it is that did this, Roger Christiansen or whatever his name is. Is that right?
I can't see. Got vision issues, but yeah, I think that's correct.
That there was a well. So
now, if there was not a well, typically, and I've looked about at 100 of these plans, they usually say proposed well or well not installed yet, but this straight up says well. So that would lead me to believe at some point, maybe at the time this was done, there was already a well in existence, because there certainly was a well in existence further down the hill. So it's a little challenging figuring out the paperwork, because usually they'll say proposed well or old well or existing well. This just says well, so it's not entirely clear.
Now, the other thing which I'm thinking about is, do you remember when Chris McDonough arrived at the house and she wouldn't allow him in the shed? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Well, I'm just thinking, in relation to where this well is situated on this map, that could that be the site of the shed that she wouldn't allow him in? Or,
well, I'm estimating, but I thought it was a little bit more toward where I think the basement shed is, more downward to the, if you're looking at it straight, I guess it would be the left, downward to the left. But you know, it's hard to decipher it. But what we're doing here is just saying, you know, there's something there more than likely, and just check off the box. Did you guys check this out? And I know there are so many undocumented things around there, because this wasn't listed on the state well map, and the one at the bottom of the hill wasn't listed either. So this, I think it's important.
I do, because this could have been missed if they're looking at something like this, and it could be easily missed. Why it's not documented on here, whether it's because it's a very old well or whether it's because it's a newer well, I would think that or whether it's to do with working and non-working wells.
Yeah, the newer ones have, it's more stringent now that you need to document your newer wells. It's mainly going to be the older wells or the abandoned wells that aren't going to be on that map that you've got up there. And one thing that I noticed when I was looking through all this a couple of months ago is the wells vary in their depth, and there's one around there somewhere, and I can't remember right offhand, but it's like 699 feet deep. So they range in depth. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, well, I was looking to see, how deep are they? Who did they belong to?
Now, the older ones are more likely, of course, to be much more shallow than the newer ones that they can drill with professional equipment for, like an agribusiness or something. There's someone around there that does something that requires an agricultural well. And, I'm not going to name names or do anything like that or call attention to any one operation, but LE could definitely check all those things out. And I've never heard that they've checked those out, and we can't necessarily assume. And we're just discussing it and drawing attention to it. And that's pretty much all we can do at this point.
Well, I should have zoomed in on these really, and let me see if I can. No, but what I wanted to show you is the names of some of these people. Do you recognize anybody in the chat? Do you recognize the name Shepler? Or is it just me? Or Light? Because the Light family have a well on their property on Beach Creek. Obviously not giving out the addresses and things of these people.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that.
But some of these here are saying 165, if it's feet, 165 feet deep.
And I believe when you were describing what the dogs were capable of smelling, let's see, 30 meters, what's that, about 90 feet? I'm an imperial person. I use my inches and feet and yards. So anybody in the chat, maybe tell us right offhand, 30 meters, what's that, about 90 feet, somewhere there.
Yes, you can imagine these are deep. So I don't think these have been checked, because that would have been a huge job just to check one well. So if you imagine how many there are in that area and how many have probably been checked out of all of those. But yeah, the Light family, they have a well on their property, which is round the corner from the house, on 110. Sorry, I'm so tired, I can't even think. 110 Ben Hill Road, and I mean, I've heard of that name before, but it's 165 feet deep. Anyway, so let's have a look at these then. So
yeah, I think the least deep one that I saw is about 100, 110, and then on average maybe 165 to 225, and then of course you got a couple of really deep ones after that in that immediate area of the ones that are documented.
They are. I didn't know. I knew they were deep, but I didn't realize how deep they were. I mean, anybody can grab these screenshots that I've got, that we've found. But like I said, with this one, that U in front of the S that I've drawn, that's not, I was thinking but it's not, it's that upside down U. So it's like an N shape. That's where they lived, there in front of that. But that's Beech Creek, the long main road going through. Then you could turn off up Ben Hill Road. And then you've got all these blue dots, which are the wells. And one of those on Beech Creek belongs to the people I discussed. They can't come after me. I'm in England. It's fine.
I don't know. I think did Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard over in England at one point. So you might be cautious there, Emma.
Be careful, Emma. So the other thing I wanted to mention was this house is also on Ben Hill Road, and I think I put this in one of my videos a while ago. This is 209 Ben Hill Road. There's no one living at it, as far as I'm aware. It's up for sale. And it has this in the garden, which is, as far as I'm aware, like, I thought it was a well. It looks like a well to me, but I was told
it's part of the septic.
Right. And it was saying that this house had a well. Can't even see all the documents, to be honest. I'm that. Wait a minute. There it is. Water info, public well. But that one's not documented on the map either.
Correct.
So it just shows you that they're not all. And I don't know whether it's in one of these sheds, because these sheds are both on the property, or whether it's just somewhere in the wooded area that, you know, obviously we can't see, but it's somewhere on that property. But according to the map that we looked at before, it's not there. So
unaccounted for.
And now all of these that I've looked at, and the one that I was more concerned with was one on Beech Creek. They're all classed as open wells. So that's what they say against all of them that I've seen. They are classed as open wells. Now, I don't know what open wells is. To me, an open well means you can get in it. Like, it's open to the air. I don't know. What would that mean to you? Do you have any ideas?
Yes, you would have typically a structure, a protective structure, because people who would just leave an open well, that would be asking for trouble. So you're going to have a well house or something that's protective, and it's not just for people. You don't want an animal to get down in your well or anything like that. So typically they will have some sort of protective measures taking over the well to protect the well from anything getting inside of it.
I mean, that makes sense. You would think, wouldn't you? I mean, you don't want people falling in it.
Yeah, it does. But, you know, there have been cases of just abandoned wells, and it's basically just a hole in the ground with nothing left to cover it or protect anything from getting in it. That's why we would have a case of, I don't know if anybody remembers the Jessica McClure story. It was in Texas, and a little girl fell down the well, and she'd be in her 30s now, but that captivated the entire nation. And I think we even had people from in the UK and everything really watching it with bated breath. And she was rescued, and she's doing well today, but, you know, it happened. And then, of course, we had a case more recently of a little boy, and he didn't make it, unfortunately.
Oh, God, that's awful. Oh.
And we're not, I'm sure if you're thinking like I'm thinking, we're not saying this is what happened. We're just saying there are some things around that may be unknown, and we're just trying to check them off the list and say, hey, is this accounted for? Was this checked out?
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we've had a lot of people commenting saying, um, have they checked the wells? Have they checked the septics? And I was just doing some research one day and I just happened to come across the 209 Ben Hill Road for sale. So I was just checking it out. And when it said it had a septic tank and it had a well, and I was thinking, oh, a well, that's interesting. So I just started trying to look at all the photos of it and, trying to work out what was going on with that. And it kind of led me to be a bit more interested in what was going on. But I did some research on Google to see what I could find, and I couldn't find the information that you'd found, which were the this was the receipt for 110 Ben Hill
Right.
Road.
Yeah, the trick there, Emma, is you've got to go into the septic records. That was for the septic
Right.
system. So there are quite a few resources that you can get online, but it's like you have to do layering. You have to do this one resource, and if you can't figure out a match, you go look for the other, and you're kind of like building your palette of finding out where things are. And
Yeah.
the wells are listed sometimes in the septic system paperwork, and they are not on the state. Basically, it's a registry of known wells, and these are where I found the wells that we've located that nobody seemed to know about. And so you're going to have to look into more than one place to put the
Yeah.
picture together.
Yeah. And that's what you've done, and you've done a great job, because I mean, this is so interesting. Just this one picture alone, it plots their home, where their septic tank is, where this well is, and then add it to what I found yesterday on this particular site I was on, which I can show you, send you the link for. You can see that it's not documented on here, and so then you start thinking, well, why? So it just doesn't make sense to me why it wouldn't be. And then you kind of lead on to, well, does that mean Ellie have not looked?
Well, we have to keep in mind this was all rural areas, and it still is by and large.
Yeah.
And there were not regulations, and so only in more recent decades have there been regulations.
Yeah.
And so things have fallen away or slipped through the cracks, as the saying goes. And that's the case with some of these abandoned man-made land features that no one seems to know about.
Yeah, because I mean, I suppose a lot of them are abandoned these days. I mean, I wouldn't even, I mean, unless I suppose you were a farmer, would you need the well for anything? I mean, I guess a lot of them have just got gunge and slime and all sorts of horribleness in now, I would
Well,
have
you're
thought.
supposed to, when you stop using a well, some people keep a well and they're also on public water because it's a backup, or they use it for agricultural or something to do with their land, what they're doing with their land. But you're really supposed to backfill and fill them in and secure them so nothing bad happens. And we don't know, and there's no real regulations that force people to, register that they had done that. And so that's where we're at today. Couple hundred years of being around and about, and then subdividing and people selling land off and going in to live in the city, or passing away. Things get lost in over time.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you can understand why a lot of them are covered over, but I mean, people should, but who does? I mean, I suppose some people do, but how many people do say, look, I've got this abandoned, they probably just cover it over or just lock it up and don't bother with it anymore.
Yeah, I've seen people just put a piece of plywood over it and tell the kids to stay off of it, or stay out of the well house and don't get on top of it, or don't go around it. And that's the extent of the way the abandoned well has been secured, which is not secure at all.
No.
But you would
And
think the landowners know their land better than anybody else. And so that's some of the thing. One area law enforcement has told people, go check your land, go check your structures, your land. And so they're counting on the public or the landowners to know their land and check it out. But if you've got a family who's only lived there maybe a decade, they don't know exactly what's on their land. Donald Wells, he said, I didn't know that dog trail was there. Well, if he doesn't know the dog trail is there, maybe he doesn't know that there's an abandoned well down by that shed on Beach Creek.
Yeah, true. And then, but if they did and they have got a well, because I mean, if something did happen to her on that property or during the day and they did want to get rid of her and they did know about this well and they have used this well, that is this why Candace doesn't want anyone on that property? I mean, we heard her recently with Ernie saying, nobody's coming on my property. She didn't have any choice when it came to the TBI, but anybody else, she's like, no, you're not coming on my property. I don't know. I'm just gonna mute myself for a second because there's something I really want to show everybody. If that's just okay, just for a Right, I'm back. Okay. Right. Just because I couldn't really zoom in on it and show you, this is, here we go. Oh, it does actually have the address. That's not good. Is it the address? This is one of the wells. This is one of the wells on the on Beach Creek. Let's take that down. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to show you. And from what I was looking at a second ago, the dogs, when it comes to the dogs, they can smell underwater, but only to 30 meters underwater, which when you're talking about 165 feet wells, they're not going to be able to smell that far down.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
I was just looking at your pictures and that's right. The dogs would and the thing with the dogs, it's a little confusing, and I don't know how much we can believe what people have said, like stopping at different people's feet or going to the road and stopping there. Those children were all over that hill, and so I can understand why it would be a hard task for the best of the best dogs, which these were apparently, to find Summer's specific scent that was the most recent one. And and then we have the footprints coming into play, and so it's a real mystery. And some of the statements by the parents, like Donald being so sure that nobody would find Summer, these are just really confusing the issue of where we need to be looking. But the way I see it, if you can start systematically and check things off the list, then you're getting closer to what might have happened.
I mean, we did hear that apparently Candace left the property. I don't know if this is hearsay or whether this has actually been said, that Candace apparently left this property twice for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was interested in knowing is, how far would you be able to get in 5 minutes? And that's why I started looking at the surrounding wells and how far they were away from their home, and how far could you get?
If you pick a point like 110 Ben Hill Road, or say where the different sets of footprints were, you pick a starting point, and then you're going to work your perimeter starting. You would say that's ground zero, and you would just build your perimeter around that. And so you're doing good. You're creating a radius around there, and you're going to try to go by the features one by one. So you have the known ones there, and all we can do is say, these are here. Have they been checked? But then what are the unknown things in the land? And do law enforcement know about them? And have those been checked?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Detective Pruitt said, and they would probably know more than we know, he thinks she's nearby.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's why they've come back again, with so much manpower to check a second or a third time, and they're not just sending out a few people, they're sending out huge search teams because they're that sure in their mind to a lot of extent that she is still in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she is as well. I mean, somebody was saying that because she left and she was gone for 5 minutes, they assume that she can't have got that far unless obviously she went missing earlier on in that day. In which case she has to still be in that area somewhere. So
right, unless there was a handoff or prearranged or post-arranged for someone to get Summer, then she would be in that area within the 5-minute range that you pointed out.
Yeah. Which would, I mean, if she could get to any of these in 5 minutes, I would have thought. But she wouldn't need to. She wouldn't need to, surely, if she has, I'm looking for the photo again, if she has a well, which is clearly documented here, number one, a well on her property. And this is not.
Do you think they would put, and this is the worst case scenario, and I don't want to, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, clearly. And we're not saying this happened, but would someone do that on their own property? I guess they would. There's been many cases of that, but leaving and then coming back, leaving and coming back, you have to think, where did she go? It's about 5 minutes each time. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's a starting point.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, and my 3 theories were: A, she took her somewhere, but then we're just like we were saying, how far could she get in 5 minutes, which is why I was looking at those wells. 2, she took Hunter home, but she wouldn't have had time in 5 minutes to take him home and come back. Or 3, she was actually looking for her at that point, and she came back hoping she was back, went again, so whether it was just her looking. And then with what you were saying a second ago about, would you, if you were disposing of somebody, would you leave them on your own property? Would you want to risk that, knowing that that's going to be the first place that they're going to look? Well, I suppose possibly if there was somewhere that was hidden.
Right.
Somewhere that was hidden and you knew no one knew where it was.
Mm-hmm. And that theory that I hate to say this word, the body was moved around, that's also a theory that's been in play when people say, well, she left and came back. And then something that EquiSearch said, and I can't place it in my mind, but they mentioned something about we should go and look again right now before the body's moved. And that's always stuck with me. And I'm wondering what was meant by that. But it is a possibility that happened.
Yeah. I wonder, I've considered that, but I'm like, well, where would you put it? I mean, I did hear that Don left to go back to work that day, to tidy up the job site that he was on. Like that would be your first thought, second thought or even third, like, you know, your daughter's gone missing, but you know, there's always a possibility for everything, I suppose, with this, because nobody seems to tell the truth from what we can see.
Right. There's so many inconsistencies and within each person, much less their stories all agreeing. And it just seems like a whole bunch of lies that everybody tells, and everyone has something to hide. And it's hard to break through all that.
Yeah.
Now that shed, have you gone on Google Maps and just looked at that shed down there? I looked at it, and it even had a dog pen there, like someone was living there, and a camper outside of it. And the well is somewhere, the abandoned well is somewhere between that shed and the creek. And it could even be in the creek at this point, because that creek has moved a little bit over time. So that's another thing that people probably didn't know, is there's an old well down there that I don't know if it had a cover on it or inside that shack or what, but it's somewhere down in there, at least according to the plan, where Mrs. Gold, Don Well's mother, was going to move a mobile home down there with a septic and a well. And the person who examined that parcel down there by that old shack said on the map, they put a dot and said old well. So there's an old well down there somewhere.
That's interesting. So for anybody who thinks we might have just drawn that, it's not our drawing, it's not our plan. This is actually something that you managed to find, and it's got William Gould's name on it here. This was from when they had the septic drawn up, I think, isn't it? From when they had the septic tank.
Right, that's correct. That was 1993 on to 94. See, when you get a septic tank or a septic system put in, you have to do an application, and then you do a permit, and then you do a final inspection. And the application was lost, so I didn't find that, but the permit was there, and the final construction paper where it was approved. And I believe that might be what's on the screen now. And there's a better view of it if you have that's a more accurate depiction directionally of how everything was set up on the property in 1993-94. And that's when Mrs. Gold and her husband, Karen Gold and Bill Gold, they first moved up there, and they were actually on that property starting in about 93, is the best I can tell. Now, someone from the area or their children or somebody would be able to give us exact dates and times and activity. You know, it's interesting because some people will live, like, say, in a nearby town while they're working on the property, and you're not really sure at any given time where exactly they live, because they may have had the town address and then the rural address. But best I can tell, this was in about starting in 93 when they moved into on Ben Hill in that area. And they actually owned more acreage back behind there. And Mrs. Gold, it looks like she was in charge of subdividing quite a bit of those pieces back in there and selling them off. And that might be where some of the tension comes, because I think at some point they were unsuccessful because of the water table and other issues, the soil and the slope. They were unsuccessful in getting septic service back in there. And I know a couple of wells were put back in there as late as 2000 in the property along Simpson Road, right up behind where the current Wells property is at 110 Ben Hill Road.
There's one there on Simpson Road there, as you can see.
Is that the Sexton? Can you tell if that's Mrs. Sexton's road?
Yeah, that's Sexton.
Mrs. Sexton. She bought that piece of land from the Goads, and then later on she bought an additional piece beside it. But she wound up having to put the septic in and a well. I think she put a septic in maybe in 90, somewhere toward the end of the 90s, and then I think 2000 is when that well went in, and then the neighbor real close to there put one in 2000.
So interesting.
Yeah, for as quiet an area as some places like that look from a distance, there's quite a bit of activity that goes on under the scene.
Wow. And just the thought of these, because like I was showing you at the beginning, you know, a well to me here in the UK, you know, has like a bucket hanging over the top and it's all kind of encased and no one can fall in it unless you climb up onto it. Whereas that's not always the case from what I've seen. And these things can be ground level with nothing around them. Apart from maybe a shed.
There's different schemes for wells, and of course you could run a pump. You would use an electric pump or current modern times, or you can have a pump right in your sink or piped into your house. So there's all kinds of things that have been put into these pieces of land that may not be obvious from above ground. And then just water drinking wells wouldn't be the only concern. People have done a lot of different things with lands, like put storage tanks under there, and of course you have the septic and water, and there's caves, and that's made out of karst stone and rock, so you're going to have some crevasses here and there, especially as you get higher up into the mountains.
And then you've got like these, like on the screen now, where, I mean, that looks like the water's coming out of it. I think it'd be hard to put a body in there as such, but places like this, you'd like to think they've all been searched.
It would be very hard to search it all, because the water, there's the Limestone Creek, and there's other little tiny creeks around there, and there's some caves inside of a pond. And this is stuff that you wouldn't know about unless you've been on that land for a while and actually went into the water and dove under there and explored it.
Yeah. So whether these wells have been checked, I would think the amount of effort and time it would take to go through the ones that they are aware of on here
that's the easy part,
because they can find these ones easily enough because they know where they are.
Right.
But then, if 110 Ben Hill Road has a well that doesn't seem to be documented on any maps, what's to say that every single house on that row on Beach Creek has a well that nobody seems to know about either, which would make it very difficult then for them to be able to.
Yeah, they're just kind of spotted here and there, so it's hard to say. It depends on the history of the land, the parcel, how much it's been lived on and subdivided and traded away. And some wells can last a long time, but generally in that area, they seem to suffer from sulfur and lime. The quality of the well sometimes deteriorates, and you can improve the quality of a well by going and drilling deeper sometimes, but other times you just have to give up and drill a new well in a different place where the geology is more fitting to the well, because they've got an aquifer deep down underneath there, and you have to tap into it to get water. And sometimes that shifts and changes over the decades down under there, and we just don't know what all people have done over the decades on the various properties around there.
And if this is a very old well, which I've no idea, I mean, it could be really deep, and it would be a perfect place, because it's somewhere that they would struggle to check anyway. But then add on top of that the fact that they might not even have known it was there, especially if it was underneath that shed and they have since floored it over somehow.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff around there that's covering the ground, and things that they may not have ever known was there. And about where that well is, who knows, that could be the refrigerator. And where Summer played in that old refrigerator, and say there was a old piece of plywood or something that was over there, and they jumped in it one time too many, and but odds are that's not the case, because hopefully the canines and the law enforcement on the property checked the known features out, but there are things that are unknown.
There are. There's a lot unknowns in this case. In fact, most things are unknown. Yeah. I don't know. And
people do a lot of weird things on properties, like they even dig holes into the mountain to make their like cave where they can hide their drugs and weird things like that. And I understand everyone wanting their privacy and not wanting strangers up there. I totally get that, but
yeah.
somewhere
If
is somewhere. And
Yeah, if your child was missing, you'd let them rip up every inch of your land if you thought for 1 minute they were going to find her.
unless, and you can probably finish that sentence, unless you were doing something that would get you in trouble, like drugging or some kind of operation.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
I mean, he's already said, as Don, that he went over to Mexico and, came back and he was being chased and, all this business. And you just think, what are these people up to behind closed doors? We've heard about JS next door. Like, what was she up to? Selling things, possibly not. I don't know.
Well,
And
people think of the drug cartel as this some strange, something far away or whatever. It's the people next door. The Sinaloa cartel out of Mexico. They're right there. They're right there in Hawkins County.
Yeah. And that's pretty concerning for someone like myself. But, if I thought for 1 minute my next door neighbors were doing something like that, but I suppose I mean, my house, I step outside my front door and the house next door is like literally on my doorstep. These are set further apart.
Well, and you've got the families. A lot of times a family member is not going to call in or turn in somebody that oftentimes they're reliant on economically. Like, say a wife knows her husband is dealing drugs and he's, one of the 10 people in this unit of the cartel. She's not going to turn him in because she's got a lot of danger surrounding doing that, not just for herself, but her kids. And it gets really complicated with family, and everybody's related up there.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, I was looking at that Light family because it looks like it's the grandma probably that had with her name, that it was probably the grandma that had that well put in.
Yeah, I noticed in your comments, Veronica Magby, she's talking about Mrs. Gold. The mom was a prepper, and the Latter-day Saints, they believe that you need to keep at least, I think I'm not an expert, but like a year. And so Mrs. Gold, stories told on her is that she canned and put things back and had like a year's supply of food. And that's just how LDS families believe and operate. So that kind of fits in with the mountain mentality, because you don't know when your electric's going to go off or you're going to be without economically. And so you put stuff back, and it's just a different way of thinking, rather than, say, you live in a city and you just run to the grocery store, or you don't have to protect your neighbor. It's different when you're in the country and you have generations up there and you've been on hard times or you've been without.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine living like that when you used to living in a city as such, but yeah. Wow.
There were other issues just in the living conditions up there, because I found nothing on, for instance, the septic system being repaired at all since 1993, and I've heard a few things about that not even being operational. So I don't know if they were even at some point using their well or using their septic, or how they dealt with that. So it was somewhat like they were off grid, and you can live off grid, but you got to do certain things to make that work. And I don't know if they were doing those things to be cautious and careful and make their situation work.
Yeah. Well, I know they had electricity because they were charging their phones, and they were, they had a fridge at one point and a microwave, and
Was there
all that kind
solar? Did you notice some kind of solar things up on the roof, like panels or At some
You
point,
know what? I think I might
said
have done. I'm
something
not
on the
sure.
roof. So like that, maybe they had a basic solar thing, you can get from Harbor Freight and charge your phones and stuff. Because like if people let their electricity bill go unpaid, it gets turned off. And how are they going to charge their phones or
Yeah.
things like that? And the refrigerator stops being used and they move over to coolers and buying bagged ice. So it's a different way of living, but a lot of people live that way and it goes unnoticed.
Yeah, true. Um, this, I think a few people might have heard that right at the beginning of the Summer Wells case when she went missing, not long after she went missing, it was said that H had apparently put something on Facebook in relation to Candace putting Summer down a well. And so I think that's where all this well business came from initially. And I have searched and searched, and if anybody has a copy of that message, please send it to me because I'd love to see it, because it was apparently deleted almost as quickly as it was put up. But
So you're
people
talking
did
about
notice.
like a screenshot you're looking for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a screenshot. So this is what somebody posted on Facebook, and they said, "Have you all heard of the teen wanting to talk to police about the day Summer went missing? Something about them swimming and she drowned and her mother put her in a well. I just saw it in another group and was curious. That's the social media post they're talking about looking at. The teen posted it and then deleted it after." Well, I mean, at that age, you're still young, you don't realize what you're doing and um how detrimental something like posting something like that could be, or whether he did and then Candace or his mum saw it and said, take that off now, or who knows. But right at the beginning of the case, it was said that he did post something on Facebook. Now, apparently he's denied it. And that's why I really wish I could find this screenshot. Now, this lady says here that she saw it in another group. Well, whether she saw the actual message or whether she just saw a comment like this, I don't know. But it is interesting.
Yeah, I've people have told me that too, but I have no way of verifying that, because if it was put up and then deleted, only if someone got a screenshot, or perhaps law enforcement could get something from whatever social media account he posted that to and then deleted it from.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know how we would be able to know if that's true or not.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody has it, please send it to me. Other than that, I'll keep looking, in these groups, which, I mean, this lady says something here. I just saw it in another group. So, I hopefully be able to find it. I'll keep looking. But if I can't, it was apparently said. For somebody to say it, you would have thought there's no smoke without fire. You would think that maybe that was said, but then again, somebody could have made it up.
Yeah, it's hard to tell without some kind of traceable documentation that actually was posted, and it was actually H, and that's what it actually said. So it's kind of a mystery right now.
Yeah, but if it is true, which well would that have been? Would it have been the one on her own property, or would she risk it and go to another property? And if so, which one? And you only had 5 minutes to get there, so would that be one on Beach Creek? Would it be one on Simpson Lake? Who knows? Your brain.
Maybe Fields and Bell Road out there, where they came back the third time and searched for at least 3 days. That's where they found the second footprints, toward that area off of Beach Creek on Fields and Bell Road.
Where's that in relation to this then? Let's have a look.
It's away, going the opposite direction of the Sullivan County line. So it would be where the light, where the chimney top, where the light, let's see, where Jody Sue's ex, his parents have land.
Would that be
that way.
the left when you come out of their property then?
Let's see, you would go out of the property and it would be yes to the left. You could go on the Tennessee parcel map and type in chimney top, and you'll see, I think, about 3 properties that have been moved into a revocable trust. That's the parents of Jody Sue's ex. And that area over there is where they searched for the 3rd search. I believe it was the end of February, beginning of March, where they had wanted to go back and look again. And I think the 2nd set of footprints were there in that area.
Wow. I know I heard they'd found some footprints. Were they supposed to be children's footprints as well?
They were supposed to be Summers. The dogs alerted to her scent specifically.
Oh. What, near a well? Or just...
They're not near a well specifically, but just in at least 2 locations. And we don't know for sure how true that is, but it seems to be the place where they were looking that 3rd time for sure was over there in that area. And I think as a crow flies, maybe 3/4 of a mile, not too far. Definitely within a range that a child could travel.
Wow.
And kids can go further than you think. But hopefully, I'm just hoping law enforcement knows a lot more than they're saying. And that's why they're so sure that she's in the area somewhere.
Yeah.
That they have found things and seen things. And they
that's why I was, when I saw what you'd put on your channel, I thought, wow, this is great information. And if I can add on to it as well, and we can get our heads together over this, then hopefully they will see it. And, if they haven't already considered it.
Do you have anybody who comes to your chat who is local to the area, Rogersville? Because I've been wondering about, I keep seeing people bringing up mines and mine shafts. And I know the EPA still monitors a place where there was a coal fire plant, but I don't know just how much actual mining would have gone on in that area. And so I was just curious if anyone knew about that locally, because I'm unaware of that, but it's possible that there could have been some localized independent type mining for various things. There's so many things that people can mine for.
Yeah, there are a few that are following the case that are from the area. There's one lady that saw my video the other day that's been out there. I think she must live pretty close. She's also got a channel. I think she's called Alex Erickson. And she said she was gonna see if she could go out there and take a bit of a better look and see what's going on out there. But I mean, obviously she's not going to be able to just go on people's properties, so she's going to look into it.
I'm going to do a little more research into that, because when we're looking at land features, as I was saying earlier, it's not just wells or septic. There's all kinds of things, and even things that you don't even think of, like storm shelters. So, and bunkers, people do put those underground storage sheds underground. They're called bunkers. And if they're running some kind of illegal operation, there's even been extensive grow operations underground. But of course, those are hard to get away with, because the electric company can see all the energy you're using to have a grow house underground.
Yeah, they're perfect though, aren't they, for storing your illegal substances and whatever else you've got. I don't know. I mean, there's just nothing like that here. You're lucky if you've got a basement, really.
Yeah, it's I'm in Florida right now, and the water tables, with the water table like it is, we don't have basements unless you're on one of the very few elevated places down here. Everything is almost at sea level, 10 or 20 feet maximum above sea level in most places down here. In Tennessee, though, Tennessee, I mean, that's so beautiful and gorgeous, and all the mountains. You can have root cellars. You can have all kinds of things in the sides of hills. Your house is oftentimes built in the side of the hill. That's why they have walkout basements up there on Ben Hill, because they've built into basically the side of the hill.
Yeah, there's so much potential there because they've got so much space, so much land. The possibilities are just endless. And I suppose if they've had farms, and
Yeah, I noticed in your chat, Holly Lightly is mentioning land feuds, and that definitely is something to be considered. And when you hear at least one certain local speak who was upset with nearly everybody about the land, that's something you can't dismiss. It may or may not play a role, but got to look at it.
And what are they?
Land feuds, like I would call a micro feud. Say 30 years ago, you bought a piece of land and the guy you bought it from was supposed to put in this or that or level it or do something and he didn't do it. Well, you're mad at that guy for the next until you die. So that would be considered a feud, a micro feud. And so even people who don't really have a claim, like say, I hate mentioning names, but Jody Sue, she seemed to be upset at nearly everybody over different land things, whether it would be Dobbs or the Wells, or somebody said they chased her off his property when she came up there. So she seemed to have a very big claim on the area, but yet I don't believe she owned any land directly. Just things like that go on all the time between neighbors and families feuding and fussing. Have you ever heard of the Hatfields and the McCoys?
No.
Great American feuding family around the Kentucky/Tennessee area. I think mainly in Kentucky, but it's like that. Have you ever watched the Beverly Hillbillies?
I've heard of them.
It's a show. It's a show from I guess it started in the 60s, but a lot of things of that is outlandish, but it's hilarious. Sometimes they really peg how everybody in close knit families in rural areas fuss and fight and feud, and it never ends. People remember something their great grandfather said to their great great grandfather, and it goes on for 2 centuries.
Oh gosh. That's funny.
Yeah,
But,
it'd be comical, but people have gotten shot and killed and murdered over
oh God,
pretty much
yeah.
land and just.
Well, Jody Sue was saying that, wasn't she? She actually said in something I clipped that people that moving in, they could actually end up getting shot, and I thought, wow.
Well, Fred Hill shot a guy in the neck. That's what they were talking about. There was a guy who went up there and he stopped in front of Fred Hill's place and was playing his music. And I guess he was threatening and acting crazy, and Fred shot him. And they had a gunfight right in the middle of that road, Ben Hill Road up there. And so I think the guy survived, but Fred was going to be charged with murder, but instead the other guy got charged. But that's what they were laughing about, kicking shells into the creek, because there had basically been a gunfight up on the hill.
I mean, I could get into a whole argument with you about why guns shouldn't be allowed, but then I'll get loads of comments saying, but we've had guns for years and we've never had any problems. And I understand that.
You could, but in the country, that dog don't hunt. So it's different. People live different lives and live in different worlds, and they have different heritages. Yeah, there's definitely something to talk about there. I think it's nothing to be ignored. I'll agree with you on that.
Certainly nothing to be ignored. I think, go back and clip some of these pictures, guys, because this needs to be definitely looked into, whether it be the ones that are, that are easily accessible that we've been showing you, or whether it be the ones that obviously are not on here, like for instance the fact that Summer's home does not have a blue dot. She does not have what's classed as a well on there, but yet here you can see that it is documented that on her land, on her parents' property, there's a well. Number one, a well. So,
and there's a second one. There's a second one documented as well. So we're just showing you that first one. And that's basically part one of the well on the Wells property.
And then where was the other one?
It was down between the creek and the shack. There's that other, what were we calling it? Not shack, but shed. I call it a shack, but shed. There was 3 sheds, and that was one down there by Beach Creek. You go down the hill at Beach Creek, and you can see it on Google Maps if you pretend you're driving along Beach Creek Road.
Yeah.
And that's the shed that Don said he raced to when he got there, and when Summer was missing on the 15th of June.
So the shed at the right at the bottom near the road, that's got a well in it. That's got a well near it. Or
yes, it was a documented old well between somewhere around that shed and the creek. And I've never heard anybody else mention it.
And he raced there to that area when he got in from work.
By his own words, he said he turned in there and he went right there. And his explanation was that he figured that everybody had already searched the house up on the hill. So he raced there to look for Summer. But some people don't believe that. And, it's hard to know what to believe.
And if she was in there, God forbid, would he be checking to make sure that it wasn't something that would be able to be seen from looking in?
Yeah, who had been there? What was in there? What were they doing down at that shed? Why was there a dog pen? Why was there a dog down there? Why was there a camper down there? What was going on down there at that shed? So if you're covering this case, you're not going to ignore that shack or shed down there. You're going to want to delve into that.
Yeah. What's underneath it? What's around it?
Right.
Why did Don go there? I mean, Chris McDonough, he did a whole show on that shed at the bottom, and
did he really? I missed that one. Did he really?
Yes.
Wow.
Go back because it was a while ago now, but he has done a whole show on that shed at the bottom, and he had something on his mind about that shed to do with Don saying that he went straight back there. I mean, Chris spoke to Don, so I can't remember back that long, but whether Don had mentioned to Chris as well that he'd raced back there that day when he got back from work. So he did a show on it. Now, I wonder if Chris McDonough is aware that there is a well down there.
I don't think so. I think I'm the only one who's I found it, and I'm the only one who's mentioned it. And I've watched thousands and thousands of hours of videos, and I've gone through hundreds of pieces of paper. I've never heard or seen anyone else mention it. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying.
No.
I think if you would want to cover that topic, and I'd be glad to help you, but you could do a cast on live stream on that. I think it would be highly interesting to see what we think about what McDonough said and what we think about this well. And is law enforcement ever going to respond to anything? That's what I wonder. It's coming up on 1 year.
Chris would have a better job, I mean, he is ex-law enforcement. I'm guessing he does have law enforcement people watching his channel. So, I mean, if he was aware that there was a well down there and he looked into that or did a show on it, I am sure plenty of people would tune in for that one.
No, I honestly think you got the scoop on this with me, because there is a well documented down there, an old well, and it was just an aside on some old septic paperwork where they were trying to install a new well and a new septic and move a mobile home down there. Karen Gold was trying to do that in 2004. So it's something to be considered and checked out. And I'm not saying that's what happened to Summer, but it's just one more thing to check off the list.
Definitely. So when you made that video the other day, I'm just looking at that. I couldn't see that the well at the bottom.
Yeah, that's just for up on the hill. There's a prior video. If you'll go on my channel, America True Crime, and you'll see I've done a whole series on land features, whether it's the path around there or the wells or the septics. And I've noted on, I think it says third septic, second well. That's the title of it. And it's on there, and you can get the paperwork from there and see what I'm talking about.
Oh,
And
wow.
I apologize. I don't have that with me, but this was kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
We didn't know we were going to do this until late today. So, but it's on
Yeah.
there, and you're welcome to go on there and look at it and check it
Yeah.
out.
So
So,
everybody go across, check it out. So America True Crime channel. And I did put the link. If you can't find it at all, I've had any problems looking for her. In the video I made yesterday regarding the I think I called it the septic and wells or something along those lines. The link is in the description there, but you should be able to find it, American True Crime. And you should be able to find the details on the video regarding the wells at the bottom of the creek as well, on the Wells property. And that's interesting because it's not on land documents when I searched, but yet this lady's been able to find it. So that would add even more weight to why he went down there straight away. It was the first place he went when he got back. So that's really interesting.
yeah, see, we just don't know what's going on everywhere until we just delve a little bit deeper and look. So on that note, I thank you so much for having me on. I so love this. This is amazing, and you're doing an amazing job. And I'm going to go ahead and hop off, and I'm going to tell you bye and tell your nice audience bye. And I hope you'll invite me again.
Definitely. Thank you. I love working with you, and everything you're doing is great. It's amazing. You've picked up on some really good stuff, and found some. You've obviously done your research and you've spent a lot of time doing it. So for that, we all thank you.
Yeah, I really think that we can figure out where Summer is, and if law enforcement is overworked and underpaid and overwhelmed, we can actually find wayfinders. And if enough people point to a spot and say, hey, what about this? And not be pushy or whatever, but just join together. Because Summer did not just disappear. Summer is somewhere. And I will see you on the next video, Emma.
Yes.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Thank you for
Bye.
coming.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Pink Phoenix. Thank you so much for the super sticker. That's really kind of you. Thank you. I didn't want to cut off then when I was talking and I just saw something then. It could be that shed, Emma. Cam and Ali said the pipes from the house for sewerage were blocked and they had to burn human waste. Oh my gosh, that's disgusting. Ooh. But I mean, it does make you wonder why he went down there straight away when he got back, and whether that's the reason why Candace went down the hill in the car, in the truck. Wow, that's good. That's interesting, because most of the photos we've looked at are mainly to do with the well on the property that is up the top of the hill. But this last one that she mentioned is actually down at the bottom near the shed. So that's just new to me. I didn't know that bit. I hadn't seen that previous video that she made, so I'm going to go back and watch it after this stream. So tonight's live started off really crappy, to be honest, with the microphone not working and everything. But as soon as we got past that, we've had some really good information. So this is something else I wanted to show you. So do you remember when Candace put in the abuse charge against Don? Until I'm tired, my God. And then she withdrew it here. Now at the bottom, it says respondent's name, Donald Wells. Now we've been over this before, 110 Van Hill Road, and everybody was assuming it was a typo and it was meant to say 110 Ben Hill Road. No, this was a dismissal of order of protection petition. God, that's a lot for this time of the morning. And this is a legal document, okay? And I didn't believe that, so I did some more research, and I found. Let's see if I can find it now, because everything's so StreamYard, you can barely see your photos. Right, let's have a look. If I can find it on here. No, that's not it. So you see here, look. This is for the details for the property on 209 Ben Hill Road. Look what it says at the bottom. Area of Hawkins County 58, directions. And it says that it is Tennessee, and it is near Van Hill Road. Near Van Hill Road. Van Hill Road is an actual place, guys. It is an actual road near Beach Creek, and it actually, Beach Creek forks off and turns into Van Hill Road. So when he documented as living at Van Hill Road, it wasn't a typo. He actually lived on Van Hill Road, as close as he could to get to Ben Hill Road, so he could just pop home whenever he wanted. But he wasn't supposed to be living with Candace and the kids after she had rung up numerous times to say that he'd done all these different things to her, and she was afraid for her life. And so, yeah, so when he said he lived on Van Hill Road, it wasn't a typo. It is actually a place. I did have a photo of it as well, but I don't think I've uploaded it. But yeah, so all the information, that lady has helped. That lady, that doesn't sound right, does it? True America True Crime channel has provided us with is great. So going back over it, this is the receipt for the work done with the septic. £100. It's not much, is it? But we are talking, you know, tens of years ago. This is the document showing where the well is on the property. The septic is the fluffy cloud. It has to be 50 meters, so it says, and some say 100, but it apparently is 50 meters on here. And the well is above it. If you follow the line, that's where the well is supposed to be, in reference to the trailer. It was called a trailer back then. It's a house now, but same position. And then if you look at these, what these house wells, looks very similar to the sheds on the Wells property. I mean, the brown one right at the very bottom near Beach Creek that we've just been talking about, that just looks very similar. Very similar to what would house a well. So I'm wondering if that's where he went when he came back, and that's the reason why. Interesting theory. Who knows? If I've missed anything important, guys, I am sorry. When I go into the photos, I do tend to miss things. I have been trying to look at your comments, but I've been having to concentrate on what I'm talking about because I'm tired, and then having a guest on, it's also difficult to keep up with the chat. But it's nice to see you all in here. Oh, it's raining outside. What time is it now? It must be about 4:30 here in the morning. So I'm probably going to get off in a second. But yeah, that is some interesting stuff. And it's probably not going to help me sleep because I'm going to be thinking about it all night now. all night. Should I say all morning? I've got to get up again and go back to work soon. But hey ho. So thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for watching. Take these off now. Annoying me. Oh, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our new member, Mystic. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the mods, everybody just for listening and tuning in. If you haven't been across to America True Crime, not America's, America True Crime, check her channel out. Have a look what she's been doing over the last couple of weeks, because some of it's so interesting. And we may do another live or have a little look at covering the shed at the bottom of their property on 110 Ben Hill Road and the shed, and go over again why Donald went there when he got in from work, because that's quite interesting. I'm sorry, you might, if you're re-listening to this, it's a bit late now, but you probably need to speed it up a bit, because I feel like I'm talking really slowly at this time on a morning. If you'd caught me when I woke up yesterday about 1 o'clock, you know, I'd have been but this time I'm like but thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the super chat, Pink, and I'll talk to you again if you're watching on repeat. Thank you too, and I'll see you soon. Thank you guys. Take care and stay safe. Bye.